Starting the stream. All right, welcome everybody to ICN.live, crypto code by ICN.live, where we come live every Friday at 6 p.m. Dubai time. Thank you so much for being here. We try to do this every week because there's so much going on in crypto, in digital asset space, and in the world in general. But this week is just getting crazy. Last night, we are in the cusp of a world war. World War III is just around the corner, and it's getting so out of control that I'm honestly getting really annoyed with this. I can't believe in 2025 we have to deal with such reckless behavior from governments that are just, you know, not peaceful, just doing this type of behavior is just you know, it's indefensible, and I get really annoyed with it, especially with all the progress that we've been making in the industry, in the digital asset space. It just feels like every time we get into a new place, things start to get crazy. So let's take a look at what I'm talking about. We'll start off with the biggest news right now. The attack on Iran was 8 months in the making. President Trump, allegedly, the United States had no idea about this. Israel was acting on its own. Netanyahu is a loose cannon. They're calling it preemptive, but I guess that's what they can call it, is preemptive and self-defense, even though they're not even bordering each other. And it's just, honestly, it's completely reckless and it's unnecessary. If we look at the region, you know, Iran has never attacked a country outside of its own. It's just getting out of control. Israel's war with Hamas over the past 2 years as well. It's just I can't watch this anymore. It's becoming so difficult to watch and so difficult to stomach. And I was hoping that with Trump in office, we would see peace. Again, the war in Ukraine and Russia has been going on for way too long. All of this obviously affects lives. You know, a lot of people are dying. A lot of disasters and massacres, and you know, it's just too much death for, you know, where we are today in the world, and with all this innovation and technology that we're trying to push. It's just sad that it keeps coming up on our feed. So now, last night, a huge, you know, bombing campaign happened in Iran. And, you know, we have to talk about it because obviously this affects the whole world in so many ways. And this ugly, I can't even look at him anymore. He's so annoying. Netanyahu just released a video explaining why he's now bombing Iran. The official language in Israel is Hebrew, so why is he speaking in English? Netanyahu speaks with an American accent. Then they have another foreign minister that speaks with an Australian accent. Then they have another minister that speaks with a British accent. Yeah, Israel is, for me, not a country of peace, and what's happening right now is just becoming, it's way too much and way too unnecessary, and it's really pushing the limits. I mean, if you look at the size, I mean, Iran is obviously going to retaliate, and I think I've been looking at this right now. So Israel has now indicated this will be a multi-day operation, so it's going to be more than just this campaign. They're not going to stop. They've killed some of the top-ranking officials in Iran. Iran already, and I'll come up to it now, has already replaced these generals and commanders with new ones. And if you think that Iran is going to sit tight and do nothing, then you have another thing coming for you. It's just unnecessary. Us obviously being in you know, in the UAE and Dubai, where everything is so peaceful and everything is so safe, it does feel weird knowing that, you know, missiles are going to be launching overhead and all these things that are going to happen. And we saw what happened when Iran did retaliate last time, where the whole world came in to support it. And it's just, you know, honestly, this is so unnecessary. And now, like, what I think what's different this time around is the Americans, most of the Americans are now waking up. Like, if you look back in the Iraq war, Netanyahu went to the capital, to Washington D.C., and went and talked to Congress about how Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, that Saddam Hussein should be stopped. But it ended up all being lies. There were no weapons of mass destruction. They dragged America into the war in Iraq. Millions of people lost their lives. Completely unnecessary. The markets obviously tanked when that first happened, and over time the markets do rebound. So yeah, I just get really annoyed with war and all these kind of, you know, this kind of narrative and what's happening in the news. And I think America is finally waking up to this. Because as you can see here, like this is not America's war. It's just, you know, and we're going to talk about not just the war today. We're going to be talking about some amazing advanced developments that have been happening in the world of crypto and digital assets, because it's so fascinating. Like all this tech is happening. And we'll get into it. I just want to rush quickly into how this affects temporarily, I would say, the markets. The markets will bounce back if you have some dry liquid. If you have some stable coins on the side, some dry powder, always buy this kind. I always buy these kind of like little dips that happen because it's just narrative. So Donald Trump says he gave Iran a chance, but America's saying they're not involved anyway. So this, you know, and Netanyahu just went on his own, and Israel kind of did that. So let me just go back into talking straight to you guys, okay? I wasn't honestly going to be talking about this. It wasn't even in my plans at all. I wanted to talk about some amazing things that are happening. I also wanted to talk about the big beautiful bill that Trump just announced, because the implications of what's happening in the economics of the United States, what's happening with Trump's new bill, and kind of like the debt that the U.S. has been accumulating is a silent killer, in my opinion, and it's something that we all have to be watching. So that was actually going to be the main narrative of this live today, and I'm still going to talk about that because I think it's very interesting. I think we all have to be aware of how this can affect the markets in the long term, and it's really sad for me because there's so much innovation happening, there's so much regulation happening in the space, but there are, as we say, force majeure. There are things that are out of our control that are going to come and go. We saw that with COVID. We saw that with the 2008 financial crisis. We saw it with now with you know, Israel and Palestine, Russia and Ukraine. So there's always like these things that happen out of our control, and they do affect the markets. Okay, so that's what I wanted to talk about today. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about everything that's going on this week, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'll talk about what's happening in the markets, some exciting developments happening. I also want to talk about, again, what could be the biggest financial disaster that could erase all the gains made so far if it doesn't get fixed. This is why I'm so bullish on Bitcoin. This is why I think the whole world has realized how important Bitcoin is. For me, there's Bitcoin, then there's the rest. Honestly, there's the rest, because it's a whole different game. Bitcoin has become so decentralized. It's become so not in anyone's control. And it's definitely the best hedge against what's happening in the world, especially with, you know, inflation in cryptocurrency, inflation in fiat, sorry, and what the governments are doing around the world. So Bitcoin for me is always number one. Stick until the end because you cannot afford to miss this. Let's get straight into it. Please smash that like button, smash the subscribe button. It really helps the algorithm if you do it early in the video, and it really encourages us to keep making these videos for you. We try to, the team and I, do all the research to make, you know, to give you the latest news and the latest insights on what's happening. And we're committed to doing this for you every week. So please come back every Friday, 6 p.m. Dubai time. Let's get straight into it. All right, so I'm going to now share, let's just have a look quickly at what's happening in the markets. Obviously, when you have a situation like countries bombing each other, trying to get rid of nuclear facilities, it's not going to be great on the markets. As we can see here in the past day, it has been obviously red. The markets react quickly to this kind of thing. And depending where you are in the world, the faster you get the news, then the faster that you can react to this. So sometimes if you're in the US and if you're in California, for example, and you're waking up, you might be at the end of it. So that's why having a stop loss on your positions could be a good idea, because these things are inevitable. They might, you know, it's going to happen here and there. Unfortunately, we live in a world where people think wars are the only solution instead of diplomacy. So we were doing really well. I mean, we hit what, $109,000 on Bitcoin recently. Everyone was excited. There's so much news going on with Circle listing its IPO, which we'll talk about. Tether making huge announcements. So much going on in the world, especially in the regulatory aspect of it. It's just been so exciting. Look, I mean, there are still gains in the week, but obviously with what's happening now, it's taking a dip, right? Again, what, money has no no use if people are dying, and I just hope that all of this stuff gets sorted. And if we look back at what the aftermath of what happened with these bombs, they killed a lot of these generals, and now they're being replaced. I try not to follow these accounts on X, but yeah, so you can see here now the Iran military's official account saying blood for blood. So this is not going to end anytime soon. You need to be aware of that. If you have some dry powder, I would say, my personal opinion, this is not financial advice. Nothing I say here, guys, is financial advice. Please, I am not a financial expert at all. I just, want to be, I want to talk to you guys about this and bring up just from all the cycles that I've been through, all the things that I've seen, and things that I've learned along the way, is that I've seen so many of these different news that come out. You see a dip in the markets and it comes back up. We saw with the tariffs recently as well. As soon as those tariffs were announced, we saw a huge dip in the market. And then if you watched some of the previous videos, I said this could be a great time to come back in and dollar cost average back in. And we saw that the markets did bounce back up right after that, right after everything got sorted, because we knew that Trump was going to come out with a deal at the end of it. All right, so that's what we're seeing here, guys. I want you to know that we have built an amazing platform just for you. It's called ICN.live. It's our flagship ecosystem product. Join us on Telegram, where you'll get the latest news always notified. It's a great place to be. Let me just refresh this page. I absolutely love how easy it is to navigate this platform. We have all the information in one place for you. And we really, the team is really taking this to the next level and to really build something out to keep you up to date with everything that's going on. It's very clean. It's very nice. We have a new keynote as well. A key opinion just launched with El Jaboom, a crypto KOL. Great insights with him. Go check it out. I love these key opinion pieces that we do. They're really cool. And yeah, so do join the Telegram. Also, check out ICN Web3 Media across all our socials. Make sure you're up to date, because we are building fast, and we're building a lot of incredible things coming up in the next year. So let's go on and look at some of the prices. I wanted to talk about, what's happening. Let's start with, so this is a great way also on ICN.live. If you go /prices, you can see all the latest moves and what's happening in crypto. We can see the fear and greed. So greed is at 71. I think I assume that's going to go down a little bit as we see how this war progresses with Israel and Iran. But let's see. So Bitcoin, let's go into Bitcoin quickly and look at the graph and have a look at what's happening. So I was excited. Bitcoin did touch $109,000. Obviously, very exciting stuff. Now we're seeing a little bit of a retracement. So here it was. We topped, hit up almost $110,000. Now it's coming back, but I'm still bullish. I think Bitcoin is going to outperform most of the digital assets space, just because the fundamentals make sense, just because the max supply is fixed. Everything that we talk about on this channel, for me, I'm a huge Bitcoin maxi, and I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger over time. And I watch Cathie Woods, I watch all of these professional expert investors, and I'm telling you, Bitcoin is the best investment and hedge there is, because of everything that's going on for it. So unfortunately, we're seeing some retracement. We're seeing some price action because of what's happening in the macroeconomic and in the war and everything that's going on. So I think it's just going to be temporary until we see what happens moving forward. So we have to keep an eye on all of that. Moving on, let's have a look also just quickly on Ethereum. I wanted to touch on Ethereum just to see what's going on with Ethereum. It's been a sad one for Ethereum, and we'll go a little bit deeper into it. Ethereum maxi in my previous cycles, but I'm still bullish on Ethereum. I think this one could be the best, highest potential play because of the potential upside. If you look at the DeFi Llama and kind of the total value locked, Ethereum is still number one, and there's a reason for it. So that I'm still excited. It's been trading sideways, I would say, here over the past. Let's look at the weekly charts and see what's been going on. Yeah, so it's been doing quite well, actually. It's gone up quite substantially over the past, let's say, month or so. I think that potentially there's a lot of rumors and a lot of word in the street that Ethereum is about to do a huge a run. So, I mean, I'm excited for that, and we'll see how that progresses. So, next up, let's go. And I wanted to talk about, actually, guys, an amazing new product that we launched. This is called ICN.click. We launched a new product. It's a media launchpad, essentially built for all digital creators that have courses or programs and digital products to sell. So if you're in the UAE, this is very important. If you're in the UAE, you're struggling to take your content to the next level, then this is the product for you. The ICN team is here to help you level up. Apply for the program today. We'll leave the link down in the description. ICN will cover all of your production and distribution to help you scale. It's reserved for creators who already have programs, that's very important, and digital products that are based in the UAE. So if this is you, just complete the form and the team will get back in touch with you very soon. So please check it out. It's an awesome new thing that we're working on, and would love to get your feedback on that. All right, next up, let's get straight into it. I want to talk about some good news, some exciting news for the space. It's really exciting to see digital assets, innovators, companies start to list and go IPO in the United States. What this does is add credibility, it adds trust, and it gives hope, I guess, to other projects who are looking to raise funding in the traditional way, but also that these are all going to become household names. Now, people, when companies like Circle go and list publicly, a lot of people are going to start knowing what Circle is, what they're all about, and start learning about stablecoins. And I am so fascinated by how far the stablecoin industry has gone, and we'll talk about this today as well. It feels like, strangely enough, like this is the third cycle that I've personally been in, but this feels like a Bitcoin and stablecoin cycle. And yes, stablecoin obviously just sticks to $1, but you have to look at the ecosystem. You have to look at what's around a stablecoin and why that's so bullish for the industry itself. It's because the more dollars that we have on chain, the more stablecoins that we have on chain, the more likely those are going to be deployed into investments into crypto, right? So that liquidity pool that's getting bigger on chain makes it very easy for people to, get into projects, get out of projects, invest into innovations that are happening on chain, tokenizing real world assets, commodities, real estate. All of that is just going to explode, become even bigger, because the reality is stablecoins are the way for us to get and invest and put everything on chain. So it's very exciting. So Circle IPO hits $1.1 billion as the firm sells shares above marketed range. This is really, really bullish news for the industry. If you do know, Circle Internet Group is the stablecoin issuer behind USDC. It's number 2 in terms of market cap on stablecoins, after USDT, of course, after Tether. But they are very compliant. They follow the books. They are known to be working very closely with the US regulators. And I think what's great about them is they also created a competitive landscape for Tether. Usually when you have a huge player out there Tether was built before regulations, and a lot of the biggest businesses in the world are like that, right? They're like, I'm not going to wait for regulations. Uber is a great example of this. They're like, I'm just going to build this app that can, anyone can take their car, people can take the car and just drive off, and people are like, you're crazy. Like, why would anyone get in a stranger's car? But look what happened. The same with Airbnb. Before regulations, people are like, why? Who is going to rent out their house, and why are people going to rent out a room in your house, right? But in reality, that's, product market fit. People actually did want to do that, and the demand outpaced the supply, and the demand outpaced the regulations as well. So this is the same thing that happened with Tether. USDT was built because they figured out that actually the biggest use case, one of the biggest and best use cases for crypto, are stablecoins, right? And so back to my point, it's basically that USDC is great because it's put Tether on its toes. It got them, thinking that, we need to also be, compliant and regulatory. And you're starting to see that as well. And we'll get into how big Tether is getting. But first, before we get into that, I tend to digress. I tend to talk about a lot of things. But Circle's is now sitting at $106 on the stock exchange. They went down a little bit because I guess everything's just, you know, when a war happens, it's the what's it called? The volatility index just goes up, and then, you know, people are scared. They take their money out until they think they know what's going to happen next. Okay. All right. So let's go into the stablecoin market. But before we go into the stablecoin market, it's incredible how big this has become. And it's incredible to see the United States government really pushing the narrative around this. So as, you know, as me, as an entertainment kind of investor, I'm not a financial expert, but like someone who likes to dabble in, dabble out. And when I see innovations, like, you know, be part of that. So stablecoins, like, what are the opportunities there? The opportunities are honestly around what these stablecoins can do. And what's fascinating is lending, borrowing, earning yields on stablecoins. Stablecoins have become one of the largest customers of treasury bills, of US debt. And I think that's why the United States has woken up to this. And the government's like, hey, guys, we actually have a great clientele here who wants to buy the US dollars, who wants to buy debt from us, and can help us, you know, finance what we're going through and kind of continue to grow. So back to that news, we'll go back into what Scott, what Besant was saying, and they had a huge hearing. But the projections now are that the US stablecoin market could exceed $2 trillion by the end of 2028. Right now, I think the stablecoin market's around $300 billion, but it was nothing like 6 years ago. It was like less than 10% of what it is today, and it just keeps growing very fast. Obviously, USDT is the biggest one, and I think we might have it here. I'll find it, but it's basically I think it's like 60% of the market share is still Tether, with USDC coming right after. So. Okay, so very exciting stuff. Obviously, a lot of regulations. I believe that stablecoin legislation backed by US Treasuries or T-bills will create a market that will expand US dollar usage via these stablecoins all around the world. I think that $2 trillion is a very reasonable number, and I could see it greatly exceeding that. Again, what does this mean? This means like companies like Circle that issue USD stablecoins are going to get bigger. They're going to, you know, it's a stock that's worth looking at, and that could potentially grow even more. So on top of that, we have the Genius Act, which we also talked about. The U.S. Senate votes to move forward with it, and then legislation is just picking up very fast. So everything around it is just going to get bigger. USD Circle for me is an exciting one, and I just wanted to touch up on that as well. Next up, let's look into Ripple. Okay, there is a lot going on with Ripple, especially in the UAE. I wanted to touch up on why I'm bullish on what's happening with Ripple and XRP. I had actually a few people. My brother reached out and said, "Oh, you need to buy more XRP." There's a lot of things happening. They're going ISO compliant. I think Ripple has become a household name, especially with Trump and who he surrounds himself with. Sorry. But a lot of people are getting excited about it. But what's fascinating is being in Dubai, we got to see. You don't think we're live? Oh. When did that stop? When did it stop? Error, YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, yeah, it's live. We are live again. Sorry, guys, there's technical issues, but we're back. All right. So being in Dubai, it's been amazing watching how the legislation has been growing very fast, and when I came in 2020, it was the bull cycle of COVID. Obviously, we remember everyone got money. People threw their money into crypto, and it was a bull market. But then in 2021, 22, we saw that crashing into a bear market. So, but what was nice is when we were here in Dubai, we saw the Virtual Assets Regulatory Authority set up, and they were flooded with requests from the crypto exchanges, the largest players in the space. Um, yeah. And we're now starting to see all of these licenses get issued and seeing players like Ripple, who finally beat their SEC court, play in the UAE as well. So let's get into that. I want to talk about how Ripple launches a cross-border blockchain payment in the UAE. Two principal partners, Zand Bank and Mamo. Zand Bank is a digital assets friendly bank here based in the UAE. They've made our lives so much easier to on-ramp and off-ramp in the UAE. It used to be an issue, especially with like startups that were building something. It was very difficult to open a bank in a traditional bank, but Zand was set up, and it's just become so easy here. Like even in a personal bank account, you can buy Bitcoin in the UAE, and I assume this is going to be the same worldwide. So. Okay, so Ripple is making moves in the UAE. That's fantastic, and their stablecoin, which we did a whole video about, go check it out, about RLUSD and their stablecoin as well. So that surpasses $300 million supply as Ripple secures UAE backing. Ripple's UAE approval positions RLUSD for rapid Middle East expansion and regulatory recognition. Every chain, every huge project has an office in the UAE, has BD staff here, because this is fast becoming the place for digital assets and the industry. It's really exciting that I'm so lucky that I got to move to Dubai in 2020 and watch this progress very, very fast. So, no thanks. Okay, so data from Artemis shows the additional issuance coincided with 38% increase in weekly transfer volume. Yeah, it is close to the weekly transfer volume peak registered between April 21 to 27 when users moved $741 million using RLUSD. It's fast becoming a stablecoin of choice, especially with institutions. But it still accounts for only 0.1% of the $236 billion stablecoin market. USDT, the largest dollar-pegged stablecoin, grew 0.5% to $157.9 billion, while USDC edged lower to $59.6 billion. All right. So next up, let's talk about, oh yeah, there's still, so let me just refresh this quickly. So XRP secures the first UAE clients after DFSA license, and yeah. So my brother reached out, said we should buy more XRP, but I if you watch the last video, we talk about how there's still so much supply out. I mean, that's not in the market with XRP. So that's my only concern, is that its fully diluted value yeah, let's talk about it here actually, is very high, and there's going to be like 1 billion XRP released over the next, I don't know, 30 months or so. So that's always been my, my little thing, my concern or whatever with XRP, is that circulating supply is 58 billion, as you can see here. Max supply is 100 billion. So there's still a long way to go. And then it did do a 4x last year. I think this is where we saw it go from 50 cents all the way to $2.30. But we've seen it kind of trade sideways ever since. When you have like supply just being put into the market, you see the price go down, and I think for me it's just been going sideways. So I'm not really keen on that. All right. So next up, I wanted to talk about the latest updates with Tether. So Tether is the USDT issuer. And they have been making a lot of noise recently. So it was all over LinkedIn. It was all over the news. Tether is now worth $500 billion, which is just insane. There's like talks and rumors about them going public, but it seems like they don't want to do it. They want to stay private. And I actually understand why. I've met founders who have sold their companies, and I've met founders who have listed publicly, and I've met founders who've issued tokens and digital assets, and as soon as you issue tokens or you issue shares or you go public, you are under the scrutiny of your shareholders, of the public. You have to report every quarter, and it becomes very, very stressful. What's up? A technical difficulty here. I'm just going to check as well. Technical issue, guys. We're back. We are live, and this is recorded anyway, so you can watch it later. But it's working now. Put me back. Am I on? All right, cool, guys. Sorry about that technical difficulties. We're still figuring out this whole live issue. Okay, so Tether is now. Let's go straight into it. Let's not waste any time. So if we go into Tether. It's honestly very fascinating. So most people still think of Tether as just a stablecoin company, and they're wrong. This is a great post by Mark Bauman. You can follow me as well on LinkedIn. My name is Kareem. You can find me Kareem Bana. And I love what Mark Bauman is doing, so shout out to him. Announced they'll open source their Bitcoin mining OS. That's number one. But number two, what I wanted to talk about was raised $500 million in minutes for a new Bitcoin-based L1 for stablecoins backed by Peter Thiel. These are not separate moves. To understand what Tether is doing, look at what they're trying to control. Number one, mining. Tether is a Bitcoin miner, and it wants to become the world's biggest by the end of this year. I honestly didn't know that. They're already invested $2 billion in mining and energy infrastructure. Tether also holds over 100,000 BTC. Mining is a hedge on that position, but there's a problem. 40% of Bitcoin's hash rate is controlled by the US. 95% of blocks come from just 6 large mining pools. That's not decentralization. That's a choke point. So what did they do? They built MOS, a peer-to-peer plug-and-play mining OS, so anyone can mine from solar-powered farms to industrial sites, and they're open sourcing it. Why? This is not altruism. This is an incredible move by Tether. It is fascinating, and they raised $500 million through this thing called Tether's new layer 1 for stablecoins is called Plasma, and it's not trying to be just another L1. It's anchored to Bitcoin and EVM compatible as well. So Plasma wants to own stablecoin fever. This is huge news. Again, the innovation that's happening in the space in the backdrop of all this nonsense and noise that we're seeing in politics and wars and, you know, and the last thing that we're going to talk about as well, which I'm really worried about that's really like it feels like a gray cloud that's over us, that's just in the background, but if it doesn't get addressed fast, this is all going to affect us. But anyways, so this is the innovation that I love to see. I'm really excited about all of this stuff. Tether Aligned Chain is building a home for stablecoins with USDT as a first-class citizen. Tether understands the game. Tether knows exactly how to build products that have traction and product market fit, and it's fascinating. They raised $500 million in minutes to build this thing out, and it's I can't wait to keep my eye on this. So enter Plasma, an upcoming USDT-centric blockchain purpose-built for stablecoins. This morning, users filled the $500 million pre-deposit cap for the public token sale almost instantly. Amid the rush, one user spent nearly $100,000 in fees to secure their allocation, reinforcing that Circle's IPO may indeed only mark the beginning of the market's appetite for dedicated stablecoin exposure. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The bigger the stablecoin industry gets, then there's going to be an ecosystem of companies building products around that, and that's where the biggest gains and value can be found. Okay. So this is all live now. I'm going to keep an eye on Plasma. It's super exciting. Their website is also live. You can go check it out, and you can participate in the public sale now. And look at these names. I mean, Peter Thiel, Bybit, Kobe, Flow Traders. It's just a great, it reminds me of when DeFi was first coming out, but now it feels like DeFi that's regulated. It's really it's been fascinating to watch this whole progression happen, and I'm just really excited to be part of it, working in this space. And then again, people were spreading rumors or trying to figure out if Tether would ever go public like USDC, like Circle did, but it seems like they don't want to go down that route, and you know what, they probably don't need to. Tether CEO Paolo Arduino has cooled down talks about the company going public anytime soon after Circle's listing. Arduino also discussed Tether's valuation, saying it should be better than $515 billion that was quoted by Jack Ma. Yeah, this is by John Ma, not Jack Ma, by John Ma, sorry. But this is huge. I mean, stablecoin is the biggest product and biggest use case for digital assets. It really took us to the next stage in terms of mass adoption, and it's just going to get bigger as soon as the UI improves and it becomes easier for everyone to use. You're not going to know whether it's a stablecoin or it's just a dollar, and sending money across the world for essentially free and very fast is a great use case. All right. Next up, I wanted to now turn a little bit before we get into why I think there's a doom and gloom hanging over us. So this is my third cycle, in crypto. Bitcoin, I've never seen Bitcoin dominate for so long. It's usually Bitcoin dominates, then Ethereum dominates, then altcoins follow suit. But I don't think altcoins. I think what's happening with altcoins is, unfortunately, their value is way too inflated, and there's no fundamentals backing it. And like in every hype industry, we saw that with the electric vehicle industry, which I was also part of, because investors were rushing to it. And entrepreneurs had the choice, and then these valuations were so high. And what happened was the valuations are built before any revenue. So there's no fundamentals. There's nothing that you can kind of like. It was all on forecasts and BS, in my opinion. And then you would see a lot of that, unfortunately, crash, and a lot of startups just not be able to fit into those projections. And we saw that also with alternative meats, Beyond Meat and that industry. So there's always, as someone who works in the investor VC world, you tend to see this. And I always advise entrepreneurs to be careful with their evaluations, because if you can't grow into it, you do a down round, then you get diluted more. It becomes a whole mess. And I think that's the issue with altcoins that's happening right now, is that their valuations just don't make sense. If you're an investor who's looking for something with fundamentals, with revenue, with profit, with then that becomes the issue. And I think we're seeing that with AI startups today. And what happens is you see an AI company, build on a wrapper, get some traction. They'll get like $500,000 in sales, but then someone will copy them, and it just becomes a marketing game because it's becoming commoditized. And if you start to really increase your valuation, it becomes a huge issue. Okay, so I digress. Let's get into Bitcoin dominance. Let's go ahead into Bitcoin dominance. Okay. Before we get into Bitcoin dominance, I want to talk about UAE news again. Pripco Mint has finally tokenized real estate on chain. They've done 2 projects so far, and this one sold out in record-breaking time. Again, the UAE is just insane. It's amazing. Second tokenized property in Dubai sells out. This is from Anton Golub. Shout out to him as well. I love the content that he posts on LinkedIn. 149 investors, 35 nationalities, 2,000 dirham entry, which is I think around $600. Entire allocation gone in under 2 minutes. This is execution by Dubai. The folks behind Pripco is the Damak family, Amira Sajwani. They understood the offer to the investors. They're giving it at a 25% discount, essentially, on the market price. So people are excited about it. But they're not the first in the space. There's another company called Stake that's doing it, but traditionally with an SPV. This is the first one to kind of do it properly with great backing on-chain as well. So I just wanted to touch on that. Back to Bitcoin dominance, let's look at what's happening. If we look at the past 6 months, it has gone up by 14% almost. Year to date, it's still up. It's still the best performing asset class in the digital asset space. I need to stop saying crypto, even though the show is called Crypto Code. I feel like digital assets just has more weight to it. But anyways, Bitcoin dominance is up to 65% almost, which is fantastic. Ethereum, unfortunately, has been underperforming. It's still down 28% over the past 6 months. It has been still down over the past month as well. It's just red all the way. It's not doing that well at all. All right, but DeFi Llama, if we look at DeFi Llama, again, stablecoins is still the biggest use case, and it's growing very fast. All right, so let's get back into, should we switch the camera as well? All good. Okay, now I want to talk about the biggest threat that I believe is hanging over all of our heads. Not only the wars, but more importantly, the United States debt and the new big, beautiful bill, that's actually what it's called, announced by Trump. The bill has broken the Trump and Musk bromance officially. They had a spat. We all saw what happened. I think Musk has kind of retreated and said sorry. But the team and I have done all the research for you to discuss what's happening. And this, I think, is the biggest threat, not only to the digital asset space. I think it has the biggest threat to the world economy. And I've been following it very, very closely. I think everybody should be following it very, very closely because it's getting out of control. It's like that one person in the family that has just so much debt that they realize that it's becoming so big. Their interest payments have become so big that they can't manage it anymore. And you end up drowning and you end up going bankrupt. That's the way the world works, except for in the United States, they're allowed to print more money. But that also is not a solution anymore, because they've exhausted that ability and that choice. Sorry. So the U.S. debt is getting out of control, but how bad is it? Let's have a look. Let's have a look at how bad the U.S. national debt is. Okay, right now it's sitting at almost $37 trillion. The biggest thing that we have to look at actually is this one, is the 122%. And I've listened to so many experts, so many economists, so many investors. When this number gets to 175% or 200%, it's game over, because the interest payments on the debt just becomes so big that it becomes very hard to service it. And if people flock away from U.S. Treasuries, if investors flock away from U.S. Treasuries, if countries flock away from U.S. Treasuries, then what happens is the interest rates go up. And when that happens, it means the interest on the debt goes up, because at this point, even a 0.3% increase in interest rates means you need, like, the interest payments become so high, and it's becoming unmanageable. And this is insane for me. Like, the defense spending, Social Security, Medicaid, the United States has become, it's an empire essentially. They have 700 military bases around the world. The problem for me is, like, yes, we're so excited about all this innovation that's happening in the world, AI, digital assets, all this stuff is fantastic. But when there's something this big looming over all of our heads, and the United States is just getting carried away with this debt, and then Donald Trump comes and issues a bill that adds more debt potentially. That's the argument on both sides, is it potentially is going to add a lot more to the deficit. But this is something that I've been really fascinated about, and this is something I didn't realize got so bad until this cycle. And I just can't stop looking at it. And I think, forget the wars, and the wars can come and go, and they're bad. I get it, but this one, if it's not fixed now, this year, next year, this is going to be a huge problem. And as you know, the world economy does revolve a little bit around what's happening in the U.S. So let's just see how bad this is getting. So the big beautiful bill, there's a lot of great stuff in there, in terms of, like, no income tax on tips, no income tax on extra overtime. So yes, there's a lot of savings for the average family. I think here he's saying raise take-home pay for the average family by as much as $13,300. And then when you do save taxes for the people, what the economists believe, and it's true, is that they get more money to spend on the economy. So that that helps grow the economy, but it's hard to measure exactly by how much. But yeah, more income means more government spending, which is always bullish. So that's Scott Bessent talking about that, Secretary Bessent. And the issue with the debt is, and we see this in America, you have the two parties, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and they go back and forth. And I feel like it's just a game, in my opinion. This is my own controversial take on the whole thing, is that they use these two parties to, get people riled up and, like, feel like you're voting. But in the back, you have Congress, who anyways do whatever they want. And the elite are just getting richer. The corporations are getting richer. And Israel figured out how to play this game by sending money through AIPAC. And it's just nonsense. But the point for me is, you hear Trump saying this is Biden's fault. The debt has gotten out of control because of Biden and the Democrats. And then when the next party comes in, the Democrats will blame it on the Republicans. But I love this post. And what I love about this post is that I'm not going to pretend how I know much about the national debt. What I do know is both parties got us here. And what they've done with this chart is basically show when the Republicans were in power, when the Democrats were in power, and so on. And you can see that the debt just went one way. Okay, I get it. When you have your own business and you want to scale that business, you have a few options in kind of raising that kind of money to build your business. One is you can raise money from investors and scale that business, but then you lose equity. Another one is you can borrow. If borrowing is cheap and not expensive, then you can borrow money to kind of scale up your business as well. That's also an option. So there are several options. Now, governments feel like the only way to grow your economy is by borrowing. And because they can print money, it gets out of control. So now you can see here, it's not one party, it is both parties that have gotten us to this point. But we're now at a point in time where it's too much. The United States can't keep spending the way it spends and make less than what it makes. There's you have to balance the books. You cannot just keep borrowing against it, because you need to keep paying back your debts. Okay, and if you don't pay back your debts, you default, and that's the worst thing. And then the whole United States and the dollar crashes, and it just becomes a huge mess. So this is a nice little meme that I like from Associated Press. It's Doge successfully cuts U.S. national debt from $32 trillion to $37 trillion. Obviously, they're being sarcastic, but that's Elon Musk supposedly went in there to help figure out spending cuts, and then this new bill comes out, and it's just basically adding to the deficit, which is insane. And I don't know why the United States won't just take, if you look back at what I showed you here, like this defense war budget of $1 trillion is just nonsense. I mean, that could go back into supporting their, helping their own countries and their own people and helping that. But they will never touch this defense war, because I think there's a lot of interest in the corporations behind it, and there's a lot of money here. So it's just sad that war is being used to profit. So how bad is it? In May of this year alone, the United States government had a revenue. If you look at it just like a normal company, and that's how we should look at everything. Everything should have a profit and loss. The businesses that I run, we look at P&Ls. The founders that we talk to, we look at P&Ls, and countries should not be an exemption. Countries also have a P&L. Revenue, $371 billion. Spending, $687. Deficit, $300 billion. Now times 12, and you'll see how bad it actually is. Interest payments on the debt alone in May was $92 billion. That's 25% of all revenue. That's not sustainable. That's like taking a credit card and issuing a new credit card to pay for your old credit card. After you get to a certain point, it's just gonna catch up. You can't catch up with it anymore, and it's just gonna eat you alive. And then that's what I'm really worried about for the United States. And I think it's actually coming, because these guys do not know how to stop spending. They just keep spending, they keep borrowing, and it's just not good. But there is an upside to all of this. Okay, so Scott Bessent says the United States government will never default. We will raise the debt ceiling. That is not a solution. The investors are flocking away from treasury bills if you keep doing that. And there's going to be, essentially, you're just going to go bankrupt. Bitcoin is the best asset there is to preserve your purchasing power. And that is absolutely why we see BlackRock and all of these guys getting in, because they realize that it is the only asset that is fixed. Everything else is inflationary. All right. Now, for the last 10 minutes, we'll go quickly into how bad this is getting. Elon Musk, the dollar will be worth nothing if the US doesn't do something about its national debt. And that's why he was so angry about it. It's all over Twitter. This is why I'm bullish on Bitcoin. Absolutely agree. Moving on. Ray Dalio is he's a great investor, but he also has a book about how empires come and go. So we saw, the Chinese empire, I think was it the Chinese? It was probably I'll talk about the British one. The British Empire came and went, because what happens is, when the British decided to conquer the world and have all these bases, they could not afford to keep that up anymore. And that's exactly what we're seeing with the United States. They have 700 military bases around the world. They have to pay salaries for all these people. They have to pay the upkeep, the maintenance. It's $1 trillion, as we saw, every year. It's just not sustainable anymore. And especially if you're not making enough money to cover that, and you're borrowing to keep that system in place, is just not sustainable anymore. So it's all over the news. This is just getting way out of hand, and I've been very fascinated this cycle. I was not really looking into this in the previous cycles, and I think this is the biggest threat and the biggest issue that we all should be paying attention to, because it's so important, not just for us, but for our next generation. If this isn't sorted out now, it's just going to get out of hand. And if America defaults on its payments, I'll tell you right now, the markets are just going to crash and do really bad. But it's not only the United States. Global debt is gigantic. Debt to GDP is above 100% in six of the 7 G7 nations, and it's still rising. Japan at 250%. Italy, US, France, UK, Canada, all near or above 100%. for 5 of 7 G7 economies, debt is set to surge further by 2030. So this is what I wanted to talk about today. Honestly, this was like my main discussion. I think I took up like 10, 15 minutes in the beginning to talk about the war because it's just, we have to talk about it. But the wars will come and go. Markets will react quickly to wars. But this is a disaster in the making, and I really wanted to make sure that we're all paying attention to this. I like to end it with a meme. The U.S. national debt is just growing at a like insane pace. Like this clock is just insane to watch. All right. So, okay. A lot of doom and gloom in the markets, a lot of doom and gloom in the horizon, but there's a lot of amazing innovations happening from, incredible companies, incredible founders building in this space. You have to know how to follow the news. You need to make sure you follow ICN.live, get into our Telegram, check out our website regularly. We have the latest and greatest, and please subscribe to this channel as well, so you stay up to date. We try to bring as much value as we can to all of you guys. And the best way I want to add, end this live today is we'll go through the watch lists. Okay. Again, none of this is financial advice. We have done the research internally just to, find those projects that do have the fundamentals and see how they perform. So we'll go into that now as we wrap up the show as well. All right. So let's get into it. This is my watch list. You can pause and have a look at everything that we do, that we're looking at, just to see. So it keeps logging me out. I'll just log in quickly. You'll be able to see my email. You can drop me an email if you would like. But thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. We're trying to build out the channel. Let me know in the comments if we should do more evergreen content where we talk about, different things. Like I've talked about liquidity. I've talked about different topics as well. Or if you're liking the live as well, I'm happy to do both. We're just trying to see what's best. So if we look at, what I think for this cycle, what I'm really excited about, and I think is the biggest narrative, is the Made in USA. So let's look at that today. And see what's happening. So it's a bloodbath over the past 30 days. It's all red. From all-time high is what I like to look at just to see what the potential upside once things clear. Obviously, with the war happening, it's not looking great, but there is potential upside there. So that's Made in USA. If we look at AI, again, guys, it's just red bloodbaths. So let's look at the OGs then. Let's look at Bitcoin, my baby Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the only one that's very close to its all-time high, -6%. If you look at it here, the rest are all like 87% below, 87, 80, 93%. So there's a lot of potential upside here. But I don't think that this is going to be an altcoin season this cycle around, again, because I think that a lot of these projects, when they listed, were way overhyped, and I don't think they might never reach those all-time highs ever again, because the fundamentals don't make sense. People can see where's the revenue, where's your profit, how big is your team, what are you guys doing, like what's new? You guys sold us this milestone, this timeline that are you actually delivering on it? Do you have enough clients? Are there enough users? People end up knowing this, and we're starting to see that. All right, thank you for joining us today. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much. See you next week. See you next Friday.